than 2 4-unit classes, that it will be essentially free after 8 units. So what you really just need to understand is that summer is kind of the most affordable time to take classes, because taking 4 classes is the same cost as taking 2 classes. But again, it's up to everyone, their situation. Some students work in the summer, they're helping with family, they don't have time for classes, or they only have time for 1 or 2 classes. Totally fine. If for some reason you want to just pile on the classes and knock them out, you're able to, and it should be more affordable. There is a non-refundable fee, which if you've ever taken summer classes at UCI before, you probably remember. It's $184. And unfortunately, this fee is there regardless if you take the classes or not. It's right when you register for financial aid, you are charged that. So I've listed here, even if you cancel your summer registration or drop your classes, you will still have to pay this. So I guess don't register unless you know for sure, because I don't want you to have to call and then say, can I get this refunded? And then we have to tell you no, unfortunately. I wish we made the rules, because I wouldn't have this this fee, but I didn't make the rules, so I'm sorry. As most of you know, summer is different sessions, but it's in one term. So what that means is you can take like 1 4-unit class in session 1, another 4-unit class in session 2. And even though you're considered a part-time student in both of those sessions, because it's considered one term, because you're considered less than part-time in session 1 and 2, because it's one term, you'd be considered a part-time student, which would qualify you for financial aid. Same with if you take more, like say you do 1 10-week class, that's 8 units, and then you add on another 4-unit class during session 2, for example, you'd then be considered a full-time student for financial aid purposes. So essentially, it doesn't matter when you take the classes, but it matters how many units that you're enrolled in for financial aid. There's 2 ways to go about paying for summer session. The first would be to just enroll in classes and to pay with a card, or pay with cash, however you want to do it. The second way is and then you can also apply for financial aid after you pay. The second option is to wait and to apply for aid, see what you're eligible for, and then decide, are you going to do it or not? Are you going to take out loans or not? Are you deciding not to do it, etc. For the purpose of financial aid, we don't care what classes you're enrolled in. And waitlist classes don't count, unfortunately. So you have to actually have a seat in the class in order for us to see that you're kind of in the class. But if for some reason the 2 or 3 classes that you're interested in, you are waitlisted, but you think that you have a chance of getting in, we encourage students to enroll in any class that they want or that they don't want, even just to show our office that you're in units. And then basically once you get into the classes that you want, drop the classes that you don't want. Academic advising might not want us to tell you that, but that's kind of the only way that you'll qualify for financial aid, is if you're enrolled in units. So again, it doesn't matter which classes you're in, but that you're in classes. No pass courses don't affect your eligibility, which is great. And as I said, waitlisted classes don't count, unfortunately. So summer aid is very, it's different than fall, winter, spring aid. And it's honestly like kind of a headache, but our office has done like as much as possible to make it as easy as possible. So I just apologize for that. because some of the things I'll share, they might sound a little contradictory, but they're not. So the first thing that you need to know, just bottom line, and this is the same throughout fall, winter, spring as it is with summer, you need to be enrolled in at least 6 units to qualify for aid. If you're in a 4-unit class, your application won't even get processed. And if you're in like a 4-unit class plus a 1-unit, whatever you find, that also won't get processed. You have to be in at least 6 units, which for most students, you would end up being in 8 units just because most of your courses would be 4 units each. And if you do end up taking one class or multiple classes that total less than 6 units, you will have to pay out of pocket, unfortunately. So keep that in mind. And then for those courses, you would be paying per unit. It wouldn't be the, 22.32, you pay for 8. So this is where I'm glad you're recording this. If for some reason you guys want to take a screenshot of this slide or use your phone and take a picture, this is the steps that you have to go through in order to get financial aid. I really apologize because it's more than just the FAFSA that you already did. So as you might be familiar with, it's a 3-day process for summer aid. On day 1, you'll go into your My Aid account, which you should be familiar with, and you'll complete steps 1 through 4. These steps generate a budget for you, and the budget is based on the units that you say that you intend to enroll in, as well as your housing option. Some of you might know this and some of you might not. You get the most amount of money if you live on campus. And that's because we assume that rent on campus plus a meal plan on campus is the most expensive option. You'll get a little bit less money if you live off campus, and then you'll get the least amount of money if you live at home. That's just because we assume that you're probably not paying rent at home, even though you might be. You do get less money. You'll still get offered enough money to pay for your tuition and fees. It'll just be a little bit less for housing. So once you do that and you have your estimated budget generated, you wait 1 day, and that's one like 24-hour business day. And overnight, everything that you've submitted will get sent to the summer session office, and they'll see that you have enough financial aid to cover your fees. At that point, summer session will allow you to enroll in your classes without being charged. So you won't have to pay. They'll just see, hey, this student is eligible for $6,000. That's enough aid to cover their $22.32 in tuition and fees. So we'll allow them to enroll. Then you have to wait 1 more business day, another 24 hours, and it can't even be 23 hours and 55 minutes. It has to be 24 hours. Again, overnight, all of that enrollment information will be transferred back to our office. And at that point, you'll have to log back into your My Aid account and complete steps 5 through 9, unfortunately. That part's really important because that allows you to finalize your financial aid. And once you finalize your aid, you won't be dropped from your classes. This is really important. A lot of students will do steps 1 through 4, and they'll say, oh, I'm eligible for aid, like summer session is aware, great. And then they forget to go back and do steps 5 through 9. You will get an email, but just make sure that you're on top of it because you don't want to assume that you're in classes and that you're covered and then find out that you got dropped. So again, take a screenshot of this if you'd like, but this is the process. And do know that I kept saying business day because the weekend doesn't count, unfortunately. So if you do this on Friday, you'll have to wait Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday type of thing. So it could take a while depending on when you do it. Again, I wish this wasn't the process, but this is the process. There's also a paper application, but you're only allowed to fill the paper application out if you fall in one of these categories. So essentially, most students will be able to use the online summer estimator. But if you're not, we do have a paper application, which we shouldn't call it paper this year because it's also electronic. It's just not through the normal estimator. It's just a form that you'll fill out online and submit it to us. So the students who are not permitted to use the online estimator are in these categories. So if you, I don't know if we have anyone in this group, but if you're a Pell eligible incoming freshman or transfer student, if you didn't attend last fall, winter, or this current spring, if you withdrew during any of those terms, or if you're reaching your aggregate loan limit, all of these reasons will prevent you from using the online estimator. The aggregate loan limit, this is just limits that the federal government has given each student who submits a FAFSA. If you're a dependent student, you're technically eligible to take out $31,000 in loans throughout the duration of your education or your bachelor's degree. And then if you're an independent student, those numbers, you'll get like an error message and you'll need to do that as well. If you fall in those categories, take a screenshot of this or come back to this recording because this is, or these are the instructions on how to submit the paper application. Some of you might be familiar with this website already, uci.verifymyfafsa.com. Maybe you were selected for verification or you had to submit some type of appeal this year. This is a new website that we've been using since COVID, and this is just a secure way to send our office documents. So you'll go to this website, log into your account. If you have a FAFSA or Dream App on file, you'll already have an account. And then it will give you a drop down of different documents that you want to upload. You'll just find the summer aid application and upload yours. This one does take about a week to get processed because these are processed manually by counselors versus the estimator that's just generated by our system. So just note, you don't want to wait, like, you don't want to be in June, you know, right before your class begins and then realize that you won't know your aid for another week type of thing. Because this time of year, especially, things go quickly. So if you're thinking about summer aid, start being serious about what steps you need to take just because you don't want to, you know, put anything in jeopardy. Summer aid is also way different from fall, winter, spring aid. So these are the types of awards that you will be eligible for or that you will potentially qualify for. So if you get the Pell Grant during the regular school year, you will get it again, and it will be based on the units that you enroll in. So everyone has a different amount because it's based on their EFC or estimated family contribution that's calculated on your FAFSA. But if you're a part-time student, you'll get half-time amount. If you're in 9 to 11 units, you'll get a 3/4 time amount, and then 12 units, a full-time amount. The maximum you can get in this award, so students who have a 0 EFC, for example, say they take 12 units, they'll receive $2,115, just to give you an idea. So for students with 0 EFCs, if any of you are in this group listening, you actually get, if you take 3 classes, 3 4-unit classes, you'll get most of your tuition and fees covered by your Pell Grant. If you take 3 units, if you take, I'm sorry, 3 classes, if you take 2 classes or 8 units, you'll get half of that, which I believe is 1,057. So it's actually a pretty big jump if you're kind of going back and forth with, you know, classes and how much aid you'll get. We also have a UCI grant in the summer, but it's much smaller, unfortunately, than it is during the school year. And this is available to FAFSA filers and Dream App filers. You have to be in 8 units for this, so it's slightly different. The other ones, you only have to be in at least 6 units. UCI grant, we have a lot more rules. So I'm sorry again. You have to be in 8 units. Your FAFSA and verification documents need to be submitted on time during this current school year. So that means your FAFSA should have been submitted like, not this past March, but the March before. And then whenever, if you were selected for verification, whenever your individual documents were due, you need to be considered an on-time student. Some students were late, excuse me. Some students were late in submitting their documents, but they submitted an appeal and they're now considered on time. If that was you, you will potentially qualify for this as well. I believe most of you are current students. So if that's true, your deadline to be considered for the UCI grant this summer is May 15th. This is a super hard deadline. If you apply for aid May 16th, you will not be qualified for this, unfortunately. And then if you're an incoming student, your deadline is 1 month later, June 15th. The maximum amount of this award is $800, and then it goes down. It's like a tiered award. So it goes from 800, 600, 400, and 200. If you have a 0 EFC, you'll qualify for 800. And then if you are a Dream App filer, unfortunately, this is the only grant available to you because it is from UCI, and the others would be, well, I guess the Cal grant would be available to you as well, but the Pell grant is not, and then student loans are not as well. The summer Cal grant, this is a kind of an interesting award too. During the school year, the Cal grant's like $12,000, almost $13,000, which is wonderful. In the summer, they give $600, which is, I mean, it's good because, anything is better than nothing, but it is much smaller. So just know that as well. And with this one, you have to have a 0 EFC. So again, summer is so weird. Like each award has these like weird requirements. And I apologize, but you'll only qualify for this $600 if you have a 0 EFC and if you receive the Cal grant during the current school year. And then you'll also be considered for student loans, which are, they're granted based on your grade level, actually. I think most of you probably know that already, but as a freshman, you are offered up to $5,500, as a sophomore up to $6,500, and then as a junior and senior up to $7,500. So it has nothing to do with like your financial information or anything like that. Another really weird thing about summer aid is that summer is considered part of the current academic year. So it's like the footer of the year. So we began with fall, then winter, then spring, and now we're ending the academic year with summer. If you've already taken out your full amount of loans for the school year, you won't be eligible for loans in the summer because you'll have to wait until fall, basically. If you only took out half of them, then you'll be awarded the other half during the summer. And then here's some contact information, which you guys already know. As you know, our office is super busy in the summer, and we're basically at the beginning of that. If you would like to get a hold of us fast or quickly, you'll want to call us. We have a lot of people answering phones. Right now, the wait time is like 15 to 20 minutes. We can call you back, or you can, listen to the horrible music in the background. But if you email us, I don't know when you'll get a response, just because we're getting thousands of emails, unfortunately. So call us if you have questions. And then let me stop sharing my screen so you can see me. You don't need to see me though. Let's see, what else? COVID updates. There isn't a lot to update you on. There isn't a lot that you wouldn't already know. And that's just because most of you already know from this previous school year that, I'm sorry, My throat is dry and I don't have water here. Most of you already know that if your parents lost their jobs because of COVID, if they were furloughed, if maybe they, got another job, but it pays like substantially less. Most of you already know, but in case you didn't, you are eligible to file an appeal. Last year, we've already processed, how do I say this? We've processed them for fall, winter, spring, but you can file one for the summer. It depends on, everyone's different. So if like one parent or both parents lost their jobs, obviously that will affect things on their FAFSA. If maybe one parent lost their job, but the other parent still makes like too much money, then unfortunately, even if you appeal, you probably won't be considered for much, just because it looks like there's money there. Even if it might not be there, it just looks like that on the FAFSA. If you're interested in appealing, feel free to chat me. You can private chat me your student ID, and I can send you an email to get on a list. In June, we send out a mass email to students who have inquired about appealing due to COVID reasons, so you can get on that list as well. That's really the only thing that's changed due to COVID. The government, as you know, continues to send like stimulus money at random times, and we call it different things. I'm not sure why. There must be like a federal regulation depending on the president or something. I don't know. The Department of Ed keeps changing it, but it was like CARES Act money. Now it's higher education emergency money. So there are different, every time the government gives it to the schools, they give different amounts and they have different like regulations for it. So, in the fall, there was like a 1,500 grant, now there's a new one, it keeps changing. We do have a Q&A or an FAQ, I'm sorry, on our website where you can see if you qualify, why you didn't qualify. And then there's also an appeal process for stimulus money. The counselors aren't a part of that. That's upper management. So I don't know what they're looking for or what gets approved and what doesn't. But if you feel like you should qualify for money from the government, then you can appeal on our website. And then trying to think, this school year, nothing has really changed. You guys have already, I assume most of you have submitted your FAFSAs. The FAFSA always opens the October before, like literally almost a year before school begins. So most of you have probably already submitted your FAFSAs or dream maps. You'll be getting your financial aid awards as continuing students in June. So very soon. Hold tight. Right now we're awarding our freshmen and transfer students, but then we'll move on to continuing students. If nothing has really changed in your financial picture, your financial aid should be very similar to previous years, hopefully more money. The Pell Grant tends to go up a little bit each year, and I did hear President Biden say that they are increasing it. I don't know when that's going to be approved, but keep hoping for more money. And UCI always tries to be as generous as possible. So yeah, what questions do you guys have? I know I'm speaking really quickly and I apologize. You can put them in the chat box or you can unmute. What day does financial aid close? So there actually is not a deadline for financial aid. You could technically start classes in the fall, attend fall, pay for it on your own, attend winter, pay for it on your own, attend spring, pay for it on your own. And then like 3 days before school ends in May or June, whenever that is, you could technically apply for the FAFSA and then get like reimbursed for the whole school year. So there's never a deadline for the FAFSA. There is like a priority deadline, which has already passed. That was back in March. but that's just for priority funding. You'll still be eligible for a lot of, or you'll still be considered for a lot of different types of awards throughout the year. And then a lot of students always ask, like, what do we do with our loans if we don't want them? You can either decline them or just leave them there. You don't have to do anything with them. And if you do decline them and you find out later that you need a little bit extra money, you can accept them and we can help you process it. What other questions do you guys have? Anything related to COVID, summer, this upcoming school year? Trying to think. Will fall be in person? The last email, like for sure, good question. The last email that I saw, which it wasn't from the chancellor, but it was from, I don't know, someone higher up with the chancellor. Maybe it was someone in HR. They told us that basically yes, but I can't say for sure because, you know, things change all the time. Yeah, so someone asked in the chat about paying for parking. So I believe that they'll do what they've done this past year with parking. If it's for sure in person, they'll charge you for it if you plan on attending class in person. And then if not, you won't be charged that. I know as staff, we haven't been charged parking because we don't go to the campus, which is why you hear my baby in the background, and I apologize. But yeah, we hope that it will be in person, but we just, I assume that we will be, but we'll see. Let's see, what other questions? Are you all returning students? Is anyone an incoming student?
I believe they're all returning.
Okay.
I guess I had a question. If you could clarify a little bit on like financial aid in terms of people who are staying for a fifth year, because I know there's like still some available, but it's not the same as
Yeah, so UCI is actually really good about offering financial aid for a fifth year. A lot of other schools typically tend to offer it just for 4 years. Each award has its own regulations, unfortunately, especially depending on if it's coming from the federal government, the state of California, UCI, or like an outside scholarship from a different agency. UCI if you came in as a freshman, you are offered up to 5 years of institutional aid. And if you came in as the transfer, you're offered up to 3 years. So in that sense, you do have like quite a bit of money. It's hard to answer that question because everyone has a different FAFSA, right? So for an example of UCI being generous, the Cal Grant is for 4 years. If you need to be here a fifth year and the Cal Grant runs out, UCI will pay you the same amount as the Cal Grant. It's just coming from the school instead of the state of California. The Pell Grant, you actually can get up to 6 years. I don't recommend staying in school for 6 years. If you do want to do that, go get your master's or something. Don't work on your bachelor's that long. It's okay if you have to. What else? And then your student loans, it's not, you actually technically get 7 years, but that's if you use them each year. It's not really about the yearly amount with your federal loans. It's more about that aggregate loan limit, the 31,000 or the 57,000. So yes, you can stay a fifth year. It should be covered really well, especially if you have a lower EFC. I was going to say one more thing. Oh, the one tricky part is that we can only give you aid for whatever your degree is. So some students, if you're going to like double up degrees, you need to declare your second major, and it has to be declared like on paper with your academic advisor. because if you just decided to add a minor or add a major and like you never made it official, we can only give you aid for your first major. And that's just a federal requirement. So yeah, trying to think.
Thank you.
Yeah, of course. I know our office is so busy in the summer, so if you guys have any questions, you can even message me privately on here if you don't want the group to see, but yeah, or maybe you just don't have any questions.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, if no one has any more questions, you guys are free to leave. Thank you for coming, and I hope you guys learned something new. And thank you, Sierra, so much for being here. I really appreciate it. I know you guys are super busy.
No, it's okay. Don't worry.